Hello and welcome to today's lesson. We're going to be doing a review of lesson 1-1 before we go on to start 1-2. So we're reviewing all the concepts that we've covered in 1-1. So the first one is writing the fraction as a decimal. Okay, so we have a fraction, and if we have the fraction 5/8, how do we write that as a decimal? Remember, this is what's going to be long division, and so when we do long division, the denominator, the number on the bottom, goes in front, and the numerator goes on top. And 8 does not go into 5, so we put a 0 above it, and remember there's a decimal after, so I'm going to put my decimal in here so I hold my place value. And now we're going to add a 0. How many times does 8 go into 50 evenly? How many times does 8 go into 50 evenly? And it goes in there 6 times. And 6 times 8 is 48. And now we're going to subtract. So 58 minus 48 is 2. We have a remainder. Remember, we're trying to look for a finite decimal or something that's repeating. So I'm going to put down a 0 and try this again. How many times does 8 go into 20 evenly? Well, 8 times 2 is 16. 2 times 8 is 16. So I'm going to take 20, subtract 16, and I get 4. Again, we still have a remainder. So I'm going to add another 0. And how many times does 8 go into 40? And that goes in there evenly 5 times. So 5 times 8 is 40, and we do not have a remainder. So we have a finite decimal of 0.625, or you could write that as 0.625. All right, another sample problem following the same exact directions for taking your fraction and writing it as a decimal. What if we have 9 and 3/5? What is this going to be as a decimal? So I know it is going to be 9 point something. So what I need to do is take this fraction right here, and this is what I'm going to do long division with. Okay, I am going to leave that number 9, and remember the 5 goes on the outside and a 3's on the inside. Now 5 doesn't go into 3, so I put my 0, and now I need to get my decimal up here. So I'm going to put in my 0. How many times does 5 go into 30? Oh, I love this one because it comes out to be 6. And so when we subtract, we get a remainder of 0. So doing just the fraction part, 3/5, that is the decimal 0.6. So the answer 9 and 3/5 is going to be the decimal 9.6. All right, between what two whole numbers? So if we have the square root of 90, what two whole numbers is that between? So is it between 1 and 2? Is it between 3 and 4? Now remember, when we get 3 and 4, the square root of 9 gives me 3, and the square root of 16 gives me 4. So I'm really trying to thinking of what two perfect square roots can I get this between. So 3 and 4, the next thing is 4 and 5. And remember, 4 came from the square root of 16. 5 comes from the square root of 25. These are all perfect squares. Okay, so you can think of it this way. Some of you have your chart: 1 squared, 2 squared, 3 squared, 4 squared, 5 squared, 6 squared, 7 squared, 8 squared. Notice I am still going. I'm still not up to 90. 9 squared is 81, and 10 squared is 100. Now, where does 90 fit? 90 is going to fit in between here, between 81 and 100. The square root of 81 and the square root of 100. The square root and the square root of 90 fits in between that 81 and that 100. And when they want to know the whole number, well, the square root of 81 is 9, and the square root of 100 is 10. So what two whole numbers does the square root of 90 fit between? It fits between 9 and 10. Okay, let's try another one. I'm going to change colors here. So if we do the square root of 55, what two whole numbers is the square root of 55 between? So I'm looking here because I already have my list. And if we go right here, if we take the square root of 49, that is 7. And if I take the square root of 64, that is 8. And the square root of 55 would fit right between the square root of 49 and the square root of 64. So what two whole numbers is the square root of 55 between? 7 and 8. All right, what are the values of x? So if we have x squared equals 81, what is x? And most kids come up with 9 just fine, but you need to remember that there's another answer. 9 and anyone remember what it is? Negative 9. Because 9 times 9 is 81, and negative 9 times negative 9 is also an 81. So don't forget those negative values when you're doing these. Okay, another problem. If we have x squared is 49 over 100, what are the values of x? Well, we just do this separate. What is the square root of 49? It is 7. What is the square root of 100? It is 10. Now, just like in the other problem, we had 9 and negative 9. This one is going to be 7/10 and negative 7/10. So don't forget that. All right. What are the square roots of 144? Okay, so over here, when we took the square root here, how many answers did we have? We had 2. So I took the square root of 81. How many answers did we have? We had 2. We had the positive, which is called the principal square root, and we had the negative. So here, if your directions change, what are the square roots of 44? Am I really asking the same exact thing as this problem right here, but I'm just writing it different? So this one I said x squared equals 81, and this one I'm saying what are the square roots? So what are the square roots of 144? What number times itself gives you 144? Well, we can do 12 times 12, and remember we can take negative 12 times negative 12. So what are the two square roots of 25? Well, they are going to be 5 and negative 5. All right, there is a Schoology assignment waiting for you, and it is review of lesson 1-1. Good luck.